The air in Boston was crisp and clear that winter. As the frozen morning light spread thinly across the marble floor of the museum, Carol Wilson slowly walked around the exhibition room. Her keen eyes were checking the arrangement of the newly arrived collection of 19th-century French Impressionist paintings. As the chief curator of the Boston Museum of Contemporary Art, Carol commanded a presence that belied her slender frame. Her chestnut hair, simply pulled back over her shoulders, and her practical black pantsuit were offset by a subtle vintage brooch that gleamed at her collar. "Wonderful arrangement, Carol," her colleague Martha called out. Carol turned with a smile. "Thank you. But the lighting still isn't perfect. I want a softer light on Monet's Water Lilies." Carol had earned her doctorate in art history 12 years ago. While her classmates sought positions at more prestigious museums in major cities, she had chosen to remain in her hometown of Boston. This was partly from a desire to maintain connections with her family before her parents moved to Florida, and partly because she had met Jason Bradshaw, a promising accountant. 8 years later came marriage, then a bitter divorce 3 years ago. Carol took a deep breath, consciously pushing away the memory. The divorce had been caused by Jason's infidelity, though she had never been able to discover who his partner was. His cold demeanor in court and his shrewdness during property settlement negotiations revealed a callousness she couldn't believe existed in the man she had been married to for so many years. "Carol, are you ready for the meeting at noon?" Museum director Michael entered the exhibition room. He highly valued Carol's talent and was the one who had promoted her to chief curator. "Of course. I have the presentation prepared." After her divorce 3 years ago, Carol had tried to rebuild herself by immersing herself in work. It was beginning to pay off. With her expertise in art history and refined aesthetic sensibility, she had already curated several successful exhibitions. However, when she returned to her apartment alone late at night, she couldn't shake the emptiness that lingered in her heart. That evening, Carol received a call from her sister Vanessa. "We need to start making Christmas plans. Mom and Dad say they're coming to Boston as usual." Vanessa had found success as an account executive at a major advertising agency. Single and vivacious, she led a glamorous social life and always charmed those around her with her bright personality. "Yes, I've been thinking about it. I'm planning to host a party at my new apartment this year," Carol replied. She could sense Vanessa's hesitation on the other end of the line. "Really? Do you have enough space?" "Plenty. Besides, I've been here 8 months and still haven't invited the whole family over." "All right. I'll help you. I'll arrange for the catering, so don't worry about the food." Carol smiled. Vanessa was always practical. The sisters had been competitive since childhood but were also bound by a strong bond. When Carol succeeded academically, Vanessa shone in sports and social activities. Their parents loved them equally, but Carol sometimes felt that her parents valued her sister's flashy successes more than her own steady efforts. "How are Mom and Dad?" Carol asked. "Same as always. Playing golf every day. Dad's back pain is getting better." Robert and Elaine Wilson had moved to a retirement community in Florida 5 years ago. Her father, a former university professor, and her mother, a retired elementary school principal, were enjoying a peaceful retirement after their long careers in education. "Getting together for Christmas is our family tradition," Carol said. The Wilson family always gathered for Christmas, no matter how busy they were. The first Christmas after her divorce had been difficult, but she had gotten through it with her family's support. "Yes. And the cousins are coming this year too. Uncle Steve can make it as well," Vanessa replied. After hanging up, Carol looked out the living room window at the winter cityscape growing dark and the first snowflakes beginning to fall in the Boston sky. She took a deep breath. Though she appeared to have moved beyond her divorce on the surface, deep down, the pain of betrayal had not yet healed. But Carol was not a woman to dwell on the past. She was moving forward day by day to build a new life. The coming Christmas was meant to be a symbol of a new beginning. At least, that's what she thought. She moved away from the window and lit the fireplace. As the warm glow of the flames gently illuminated the room, Carol took an art book from the bookshelf and began to plan her next exhibition. Tomorrow she intended to organize the last boxes that remained unpacked since her move. Saturday morning, Carol rose early and made plans for the day. Since moving into her new home, she had gradually organized each room, but several boxes remained unpacked. Particularly, a box at the back of her bedroom closet labeled Miscellaneous Old Documents had remained unopened. She knew it contained mementos from her marriage to Jason. After breakfast and brewing coffee, Carol took a deep breath and decided to face that box. I have to deal with this eventually. She pulled out the box and placed it on the living room floor. Carefully removing the tape, she opened it to find, as expected, documents and small items. Anniversary cards, souvenirs from their travels together, and a small jewelry box she had forgotten about. Carol picked up each item, allowing herself to reminisce while calmly sorting them into 3 categories: discard, keep, and donate. When she had almost reached the bottom of the box, she found something wrapped in a thin leather case. Taking it out, she discovered it contained a black tablet. Jason's tablet. Carol whispered in surprise. This was what Jason had desperately searched for during their divorce. She had heard he eventually bought a new one when it couldn't be found. Apparently, in the chaos before her move, this case had been packed with her personal belongings. She tried to turn on the tablet, but the battery was dead. Carol searched for a charger, found one, and plugged it in. When the charging symbol appeared, she sighed with relief. Should I return it? But the divorce 3 years ago had been painful. Jason had left her coldly and calculatingly. Somewhere inside, Carol harbored a desire to know the truth, who his mistress had been, why he had changed so suddenly. Hours later, when the tablet was charged, the lock screen appeared. Carol tried to recall the password. She attempted several common passwords they had shared, but none worked. Finally, she tried their wedding anniversary date. The screen unlocked. How ironic. Carol smiled bitterly. A man who would use their anniversary as his password had betrayed her. It seemed nothing but ironic. The home screen displayed various app icons. Carol hesitated. This would be invading his privacy. But remembering the trust and dignity he had stolen from her, she moved her finger. Opening the Photos app, she found organized folders labeled Work, Travel, Documents, and Family. Carol tapped on Family. Her heart nearly stopped at the first image displayed. There were Jason and her sister Vanessa, intimately close, his arm around her waist. They both smiled happily, like lovers. No. With trembling fingers, Carol moved to the next photo. Again, there were the 2 of them. Dinner at a restaurant, a picnic in the park, and a hotel room. Looking at the dates, most were from when she and Jason were still married. Carol's head spun, and her stomach knotted. Her most trusted people, her husband and sister, had been carrying on behind her back. How long had it been going on? How much had they ridiculed her? Continuing her exploration, she found folders named after other women. Opening them revealed equally intimate photos. All were organized by date, showing that Jason had relationships with multiple women. Opening the messaging app revealed exchanges with each woman. Sweet words, promises, and lies. He told each woman that she was the only one he truly loved. But the messages with Vanessa were the most numerous and had continued the longest. Jason, when are you going to tell her? It's been 3 years since the divorce. A recent message from Vanessa. Give me a little more time. The timing isn't right. Jason's reply. But to another woman, he sent an entirely different message. Vanessa? She's just a playmate. You're the only one I'm serious about. Carol's hands shook, nearly dropping the tablet to the floor. She tried to control her emotions with deep breaths, but anger and sadness churned in her chest. her sister and ex-husband. And not just a one-time mistake, they had deceived her for a long period. And it was still continuing. Vanessa seemed to be dreaming of marriage to him, but Jason was maintaining relationships with multiple women, not telling any of them the truth, merely using them. Carol placed the tablet on her lap and gazed out the window. Outside, snow had begun to fall quietly. As white crystals began to cover the city, something changed within her. Sadness and self-pity transformed into quiet determination. She knew the truth now. Carol picked up the tablet and stared at the photos again. Vanessa's smile, Jason's arm, their intimacy. A cold light settled in her eyes. 1 month until Christmas. She whispered quietly. Christmas, when the whole family would gather. It would be the perfect opportunity to reveal the truth. But she needed a plan, not just angry action. Carol felt it was time to apply the meticulous planning skills she had developed in her museum work. She turned off the tablet, unplugged it from the charger, and carefully returned it to its case. Carol arrived at work 30 minutes earlier than usual on Monday morning. Reaching her office at the museum, she closed the door and took a deep breath before starting her computer. 48 hours had passed since the weekend's discovery, but the shock hadn't completely subsided. However, she was determined to think and act calmly, without being swept away by emotions. First, she decided to back up the tablet's contents. Taking out her work hard drive, she copied all necessary data from the tablet. Photos, messages, dates, she saved all evidence in multiple locations. In case Jason tried to recover his tablet, she wanted to ensure the evidence was secure. Good morning, Carol. You're early. Her colleague Amy poked her head in. Carol quickly hid the tablet in her desk drawer and put on a natural smile. Good morning, Amy. Yes, I have preparations for the Italian exhibition today. How was your weekend? Anything good happen? Carol smiled. Nothing special. Just organizing my home. After Amy left, Carol took out the tablet again. She began examining the photos and conversation records in detail, selecting which information would be most shocking and which images would provide the most decisive evidence. She planned this exhibition of truth with the same precision she used when planning exhibitions at the museum. In the evening, Carol received a call from Vanessa. Carol, I've decided on the catering for the Christmas party. I ordered from your favorite Italian restaurant. Carol responded calmly. Thank you, Vanessa. You're always so helpful. Also, Mom was asking if you're seeing someone recently? Yes, for a little while now, Carol lied. But it's not serious enough to introduce to everyone yet. Really? Don't be shy. Everyone's curious. After ending the conversation, Carol stared out the window. She had once loved her sister dearly. Despite their childhood rivalry, they had supported each other as sisters. When and how had that changed? There wasn't a trace of guilt in Vanessa's voice. Had her sister really felt no hesitation in betraying her? Over the next few days, Carol continued her normal daily life while advancing her tablet investigation and plan. Work at the museum, dinners with friends, and weekend phone calls with her parents. All seemed normal. No one noticed what was happening inside her. On Friday night, Carol made a big decision. She needed to know more about Jason's current situation. The information she could gather from social media and internet searches was limited. His accounting firm's website confirmed he still worked at the same company, but she couldn't find any more information. On Sunday, Carol steeled her resolve and headed to a cafe that Jason frequented. From the tablet messages, she knew he still maintained the same habits. He liked to spend Sunday mornings alone at this cafe, reading the newspaper over coffee. Peering through the window from outside, she spotted Jason as expected. Carol took a deep breath, put on her sunglasses, pulled her hat low, and entered. Jason didn't notice her as he sipped his coffee while looking at his tablet. Carol sat in a position out of his line of sight and quietly observed. Jason had gained a little weight since she last saw him, and his hair had begun to show flecks of gray. But his face still held the same confidence and charm it always had. 15 minutes later, a young woman entered and sat beside him. Though Carol couldn't hear their conversation, their intimacy was evident. The woman wore no ring on her finger. Carol discreetly took a photo. After leaving the cafe, Carol sat on a bench in a nearby park and looked at the photo she had taken. The woman was Jessica, from the folders on the tablet. He was still involved with her too. But he surely hadn't told Vanessa about it. The next day, while immersed in exhibition preparations at the museum, Carol was also crafting her Christmas plan in her mind. She wanted not just to reveal the truth, but to make Jason and Vanessa fully understand the weight of what they had done to her. It shouldn't be like a public execution, but rather like a work of art revealing truth. During the last week of November, Carol began her Christmas shopping. A set of premium wines for her parents, toys and books for her relatives' children, and for Vanessa, she selected a special jewelry box. On the outside, it was a beautifully decorated wooden box, but inside it had a special mechanism. Leaving the jewelry store, Carol headed to an art supplies store. There she purchased a small USB drive, special paper, and high-quality printer ink for photos. Returning home, she set to work. She printed selected photos from the tablet and transcribed message contents onto elegant cards. The jewelry box had a special drawer inside where these pieces of evidence could be hidden. She also incorporated a mechanism that would play music when the box was opened. Instead of a gentle classical melody, she used a recording of Jason and Vanessa's conversations. For maximum impact, Carol murmured. As an art historian, she understood the power of symbolism and presentation. The jewelry box wasn't just a container, it was a medium to convey a message. And the presentation had to be perfect. As Christmas approached, Carol responded more warmly than before to calls and messages from her family. She was especially friendly with Vanessa, sometimes inviting her to lunch. Her sister seemed pleased with the change, interpreting it as a sign that Carol was recovering from her divorce. "You really seem better," Vanessa said. "Thanks to your new boyfriend?" Carol smiled. "Maybe. I needed a new beginning in life." "Yes. The divorce from Jason was hard, but now you probably think it was for the best, right?" "Yes, everything happened for a reason," Carol replied quietly. "But I think it's important to know the truth." Vanessa showed a moment of tension but quickly regained her smile. "Of course. The truth always comes out eventually." "Indeed it does, Vanessa." A week before Christmas, Carol made final adjustments to the jewelry box. She had Vanessa's name beautifully engraved on the top of the box and decorated it with red and white ribbons. Outwardly, it looked like a gift of love from sister to sister. But inside, the truth waited. Jason's double life, his lies to Vanessa, and his relationships with other women, all clearly documented. On Christmas morning, when this box was opened, the hidden truth would finally be revealed. "Those who deceived me. But now it's my turn," Carol murmured as she gazed at the jewelry box. Then she wrapped it neatly in wrapping paper and decided where to place it under the Christmas tree. On Christmas Eve morning, Carol woke up early and began preparations. Outside her window, snow continued to fall quietly, wrapping the entire city in a white blanket. She brewed coffee and began cleaning her apartment. For a perfect presentation, the stage must also be perfect. In the center of the living room stood an elaborately decorated Christmas tree, with pre-prepared gifts arranged around it. Among them, wrapped in crimson paper, Vanessa's gift particularly stood out. "Everything is ready," Carol murmured, beginning to set the dining table. She spread the tablecloth and subtly placed framed family photos around. There were pictures of her and Vanessa as children. The sight of them smiling innocently caused pain in Carol's chest, but she suppressed it. This was not the time for sentimentality. At 3 p.m., the first guests arrived. Carol's parents, Robert and Elaine Wilson. "Carol, what a lovely apartment!" Elaine exclaimed, embracing her daughter. "You've decorated it so beautifully." Robert also hugged Carol. "Your first Christmas here. It'll be a special day." Carol smiled. "Yes, it will be truly special." Next, Uncle Steve and his family arrived, followed by the cousins. The apartment gradually filled with conversation and laughter. Carol performed perfectly as hostess, pouring drinks and serving appetizers. No one seemed to notice her inner tension. At 4:30 p.m., Vanessa arrived. She was dressed in a red dress that made her look radiant. In her arms, she carried several gifts. "Merry Christmas," Vanessa said cheerfully, spreading smiles around the room. She kissed her parents and hugged Carol. "Lovely party, Carol." "Thank you," Carol replied. "We've been waiting for you." "Now everyone's here." Carol secretly checked the time. She had set a timeline in advance. First dinner, then some conversation, and then gift exchange. According to her plan, the special gift for Vanessa would be given last. For maximum effect, Carol picked up a wine glass and tapped it lightly. "Everyone, dinner is ready. Please take your seats at the table." The meal progressed in a pleasant atmosphere. They discussed family topics, reminisced about old memories, and talked about future plans. Elaine shared stories about life in Florida, and Robert enthusiastically described his new golfing hobby. Vanessa told stories of her success at work, earning everyone's admiration. "Carol, how's your work at the museum?" Uncle Steve asked. "It's going well. A special exhibition of Italian Renaissance paintings begins next month. I'm busy preparing for that." "Wonderful," her mother Elaine said. "I'm so proud of both of you girls, each excelling in your fields." Carol smiled. "Thank you, Mom." Vanessa looked at Carol and asked, "Carol, tell us more about your new boyfriend. Isn't he coming today?" "Unfortunately, he's spending time with his family," Carol answered calmly. "But I'll introduce him to everyone another time." After dinner, the family moved to the living room and gathered around the Christmas tree. Robert took charge as the gifts were exchanged. "This is for Elaine, from Steve. This is for Tim, from Carol." Gifts were opened one after another, with exclamations and words of thanks flying around. Carol smiled quietly, waiting for her moment. Her present was left for last. And finally, Carol stood up and took the red box in her hands. "This is for Vanessa, from me." The room became momentarily quiet. Everyone seemed to sense a special moment between the sisters. "Before you open it," Carol said, "may I say a few words?" The entire family focused on her. "As sisters, we've competed since childhood. But that never changed the fact that we loved each other. Lately, I've been thinking deeply about what's important in life," Carol said quietly. "It's truth. Without truth, neither love nor trust can exist." She looked directly into Vanessa's eyes. "This present is my gift of truth." Carol slowly handed the box to Vanessa. With an expression mixing anticipation and slight tension, Vanessa accepted it. "What a lovely box," Elaine remarked. "So like you, Carol." Vanessa untied the ribbon and opened the wrapping paper. She widened her eyes at the jewelry box that emerged. On its surface was engraved, "To Vanessa, with love." "Open it," Carol urged. When Vanessa lifted the lid of the box, soft music began to play. But it quickly changed to Jason's voice. "Vanessa? She's just a playmate. You're the only one I'm serious about." The color drained from Vanessa's face. She looked inside the box and found the photos and message cards there. The photos showed her and Jason embracing intimately. The dates were from when Carol and Jason were still married. "This is Vanessa's voice trembled. Carol continued calmly. 3 months ago, I found Jason's tablet. There were many photos of you too. From when we were still married. The room fell silent as if frozen. Her parents wore expressions of confusion and shock. Carol, this is a misunderstanding, Vanessa said desperately. We were. A misunderstanding? Carol quietly countered. Look at the USB in the box. All the evidence is there. Jason's messages, your photos, the dates. And also the fact that he was involved with other women at the same time. With trembling hands, Vanessa pulled out the next photo. It showed Jason with other women. They too appeared just as intimate. He was, with other women too? Vanessa's voice was hoarse. Yes, at least 3, Carol answered. And he promised them the same thing he promised you. That you're the only one I'm serious about. Vanessa's face turned bright red, then deathly pale. She dropped the box to the floor and covered her face with her hands. Why would you do this? Because I thought you had the right to know the truth, Carol answered quietly. Not just you. Me, and our whole family too. Elaine asked in a shaking voice, Vanessa, is this true? Vanessa couldn't answer. Her silence told the whole story. Robert stood up, trembling with anger. To betray our family like this. Maintaining her composure, Carol delivered the final blow. Jason was planning to propose to Vanessa this weekend, wasn't he? But he also had plans to meet a woman named Jessica. I saw them last week. Vanessa raised her face and looked at Carol with desperate eyes. That's a lie. All the evidence is right there, Carol pointed to the box. Photos, messages, dates. Everything. Vanessa suddenly stood up and ran out of the room. As the door slammed shut, a heavy silence remained in the room. Carol stood by the window, looking at the snowy scene outside. Her revenge had been perfect. But the emptiness spreading in her chest was unexpected. Revealing the truth had perhaps served justice. But at the same time, she had lost her sister. Carol. Elaine stood beside her daughter. Why today? Why in this way? Carol looked at her mother and felt tears streaming down her cheeks. Because the truth had to come out someday. Outside, the snow continued to fall. Christmas Day became a day the Wilson family would never forget. The price of truth was high, but for the first time, Carol felt freed from the burden she had carried for 3 years. The snow danced in Boston's winter. A year had passed since that shocking Christmas. Carol Wilson gazed out the museum window, lost in thought. Her life had changed dramatically over the past 12 months. Carol, it's lunchtime. A gentle hand was placed on her shoulder. Turning around, she saw Michael Lawrence's warm smile. He was a colleague who worked in the museum's administration department and had become her boyfriend 6 months ago. They had grown close while jointly planning a new French Impressionist exhibition, naturally deepening their relationship. Is it time already? Carol smiled. I was absorbed in preparing for the exhibition. I know. That's exactly why you need a break. As they headed to the cafeteria, they discussed details for next month's exhibition. Carol's expertise and Michael's practical approach created a good balance both at work and in life. After lunch, Carol returned to her office and picked up a photo frame on her desk. It contained a recent picture of her with her parents. After the Christmas incident, family relationships had deteriorated but were gradually repaired over time. Her parents were initially overwhelmed by shock and sadness but ultimately chose to support both daughters and preserve the family bond. And 2 months ago, Carol received a long letter from Vanessa. It contained apologies, regrets, and wishes for reconciliation. Carol didn't write back immediately, but last week, she finally agreed to meet her sister for coffee. For a new beginning, she whispered quietly. Anger and the desire for revenge had gradually healed with time. Complete forgiveness might still take time, but she was ready to move forward step by step. Meanwhile, Jason Bradshaw's life had taken a nosedive. After that Christmas, Vanessa completely cut ties with him. When his double life came to light, the other women also left him. His professional reputation was damaged, and he lost clients one after another. The last Carol heard, he had been fired from his accounting firm and was living alone in a cheap suburban apartment. The once charming and successful man now lived in isolation, having lost all trust. "Carol," phone call, a colleague called out. "It's your mother." Carol took the phone. "Mom? What is it?" "I just wanted to confirm. You're definitely coming for Christmas, right?" This year's Christmas was to be hosted by her parents at their Florida home. Vanessa was also planning to attend. "Yes, of course. I'm bringing Michael too." After hanging up, Carol gazed out the window again. The snow had stopped, and the sun was peeking through the clouds. The journey that began with that destructive day of truth had led her to unexpected places. There had been pain and loss, but also new love and self-discovery. Carol returned to her desk and began working on plans for the next exhibition. Accepting the past for what it was, she chose to continue walking toward the future. After all, the darkest night is always followed by dawn.